Good morning, Kingsley community. Pastor Colleen Wehrman here, coming to you with another daily devotion for Thursday, September 16th, 2021. Live in grace, walk in love. Day 64, entitled, We Make Loving People a Lot More Complicated Than Jesus Did. 1 John 3:18. Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Bob writes, have you ever had a friend or relative who loves you so much they can't have a single conversation without rehashing all the ways they think you're wrong? Let me read that again because that's funny. Have you ever had a friend or relative who, quote, loves you so much they can't have a single conversation without rehashing all the ways they think you're wrong? Or have you been told you're loved so much that you can't come around anymore? Or have you been denied something you really wanted and needed because you're loved so much? So often someone tells us they're doing it for our good when it feels like it's for their good. This is true. For a lot of people, love looks like telling us we're cut off until we fall in line. Some people call it tough love, but I don't think Jesus had this phrase in his vocabulary. We make loving people a lot more complicated than Jesus did. Jesus thought love meant a lot of things. It meant eating meals in people's homes, even when they were the kind of people who had been cut off by religious communities. It was touching the untouchable. It looked like making time for the people others passed by. Jesus was interrupted all the time, and when we get interrupted, it seems like we go into a rage. Yikes. Jesus wasn't scared away by those who had a reputation for being scandalous or unclean because he saw through the labels that had been slapped on them and he believed in who they might become. We'll miss the opportunity to see people grow if we won't meet them with love where they are. Sometimes it appears more important for us to be right than to be Jesus. Let me read that again because I think that's true. Sometimes it appears it's more important for us to be right than to be Jesus. No one has ever been argued into a change of heart. No one's ever been coerced into becoming more like Jesus. If you're hoping to spread the love of Jesus to those you think are wrong, try loving people like Jesus instead of pointing out that they're wrong or pointing out that you don't agree with them or trying to change what they believe. Next time you feel like you love someone so much that you want to give them a piece of your mind, try giving them a glass of strawberry juice instead. Strawberry juice. Okay, Bob, that's random. Love isn't as complicated as we make it. Just love people. Don't add any qualifiers. What can you do this week to love someone with actions rather than words? So we read in Paul's love chapter that I do so many times in for weddings that I've become to memorize it. So love is patient, love is kind, love doesn't envy, love doesn't boast, love doesn't keep score, love doesn't count the records of rights and wrongs, love lasts forever. So when you choose to love, which is a choice, it's an action, as Paul describes, he talks about what love is and what love isn't in that chapter. 16 verbs he uses. So what love is an action, and it's a choice. So instead of maybe pointing out that the person's wrong, and they might be. We're not saying they're not. They might be wrong. But the point is that Jesus didn't point out the wrong. He pointed to the love that was in him. And that is what we are to do, is to have that love for the world. And yeah, if people come at you and they harm you, try to put yourself in their shoes and all of that. I think that goes along with what I'm going to talk about this Sunday. We are in the grudge series, learning to lay down those grudges, set aside those things that annoy us, quit looking to be offended, and instead looking for ways that we can forgive others of their offenses or let them go, let them pass by. And this Sunday, we're going to talk about how the heart of the gospel is not us receiving forgiveness. The heart of the gospel is that God chose to give forgiveness to begin with, to save us from what we had done, and for the consequence of sin. So it's a constant flow. God forgives us continually. He forgave us on the cross for everything, but he continues to forgive us for every mistake we make. And then we receive that forgiveness and we feel so good, don't we? But then it stops there. The flow stops. Instead, the flow is supposed to go from God forgiving us to us receiving that forgiveness out to others to forgive them. But we forget this flow. We just let it stop with us. And then we say things like, I'm never going to forget what they did. Well, no one's asking you to. And it's not fair. So we're going to talk about what God says about that and how Jesus has laid out a continual flow of forgiveness. The forgiveness flow. It'll be fun. Forgiveness from God gives freely, doesn't give what we deserve, which is the consequence of sin, which we know the wages of sin is death. We know that the consequences of sin are hurting others and hurting the world. So God gives us this forgiveness freely in and through his son Christ, and then we receive it gratefully with, it's a gift. We can't give God anything in return for it. It's just a gift. But what he expects us to do is to keep that flow going to others. And here we stop it because we've been hurt or we can't forgive or whatever it is. And so in Luke 17, 3-5, Jesus tells us and gives us an example of how to keep the flow of forgiveness going and how to get rid of those obstacles that stop that constant flow of forgiveness that God continually flows and throws and gives to us. He wants that to keep going into the world. So that's at 9/11 in person, 9 a.m. live stream right here this Sunday. I think it's the 19th of September this Sunday. And check it out. Should be good. We're going to talk about an amazing, it looks almost magical, an amazing kind of a trick that water can do when all of the platelets are going in the right direction. And so some of you physicists out there know what I'm talking about, or some of you that love physics. I know about this much of physics just from what I read. So you can ad lib, but we're going to be talking about how it's a constant flow when everything's in line and we rely on a perfect God who gives us faith to keep that flow going. So we'll talk about that this Sunday as we continue the sermon series, The Grudge, learning how to get over it and learning how to forgive, truly forgive, because God has forgiven us. So I'll see you this Sunday, 9 or 11 in person, 9 a.m. right here live stream. See you soon.